Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste to all. Welcome to Book Spot. I am Dr. Sandya and I am here today to review the book Koshta, A Clinical Perspective, authored by Dr. Pavana Jayaram. So this book was published by the Ayurveda Pharmacy Coimbatore Limited. Dr. U. Indulal and Dr. P.P. Jijish have meticulously edited the book. The author has dedicated the book to late Padma Shri Dr. K. Rajagopalan sir and Dr. G. I.N. Melubled. The concept of this book was conceived during the Tattva Prakashini 2015 and forwarded by none other than our late Padma Shri Dr. Krishna Kumar ji. And in the foreword, he appreciates Dr. Pavana to be a vehement campaigner of purity in thought and practice of Ayurveda. He also tells the book to be a representation of what is truly Ayurveda. So the foreword itself triggers one's curiosity to dive deep into the book and to go page by page of the book. In the preface, Dr. P.P. Jijish brings to our notice the usage of flowcharts and footnotes by the author in explaining various contexts. The author Dr. Pavana has also used various Tantra Yuktis and various references to the subject. So before diving deep into the subject matter itself, Dr. Pavana in the author's note tells us that the usage of Sanskrit terms were intentionally done to reveal the initial steps of clinical assessment based on the Koshta and the Agni in the true sense of the concept. So this book starts with an introductory chapter and then spans over 6 chapters and then ends with an Upadesha from the author. So I will try to preview each chapter so that you will be able to expect what is in it, and also you will be able to relish the book chapter by chapter, page by page. In the introductory chapter, Dr. Pavana hits the nail right on its head. She says, an Indian mind should only be thinking purely Indian, in the sense that the modern concept and techniques should only be used as a complementary tool and not in Ayurveda, and one should not be led by it to a conclusion. She also states a very beautiful example of a garland of beads which is strung together by a string. So this invisible string of concepts of Ayurveda, which is exposed to the outside by the beads of the Lakshanas, can only be revealed if one has a purely Indian thinking in oneself. So the Koshta, which is an fulcrum of disease manifestation, is the base step for clinical assessment and for one to come to a correct diagnosis or a treatment protocol. And that is why this book, Koshta, A Clinical Perspective, has a value in our everyday clinical practice. The first chapter is Sharira Tattva. So here Dr. Pavana starts by explaining what is a Sharira and how the Sharira is grouped into the Dravya Rupa Sharira and the Shakti Rupa Sharira, and how they are mutually related. She also goes on to explain about the Pancha Mahabhuta constitution of the Sharira via the Dosha, Dhatu and Mala concept. The second chapter, it is called the Koshta after the book itself, wherein Koshta is considered as the receptacle of the food transformation. Here Dr. Pavana explains why Koshta is called as the Mahashrotas and what it constitutes, and also why it is very aptly given the name as Grahani. The effort in the book is to explain the Vikara Prakriti based on the Samanya Samprapti, which is having the functional parts of the dosha and the Agni, which is lodged in the Koshta. So the various types of Koshta based on the dosha has been briefly explained. And also Dr. Pavana has touched upon the 3 types of Koshta via the Mridu, Madhya and Krura Koshta in detail. She ends this chapter with a very beautiful flow chart of the Dosha Vikalpa. The next chapter deals with the Ahara Paka. So the status of one's health is all that the matter of what one eats, thinks and does. This is precisely what is dealt with in this chapter. It is in fact very interesting how Dr. Pavana explains the Ahara Kala based on the body's diurnal transient status to accommodate food in it. So the role of dosha in the Ahara Paka, the Rasadhatu formation and its repercussions, the role of Avalambaka Kapha, the absorption of the Ahara Rasa, and the clinical transformation process are all dealt with a beautiful explanation with flowcharts as well. Next it goes on to the Koshta in an altered state. So having done with the normalcy and explained everything about the Koshta and its types, she goes on to explain it when it is in a derailed state with respect to the doshas. And she says it ranges between the Ruksha Koshta and the Snigdha Koshta. Next is a very important chapter of the Koshta in the Samprapti. A precise clinical analysis is very necessary for the treatment protocol as well as for the diagnosis. So how the Koshta in the Samprapti varies between a Ruksha Koshta and the variations in the Snigdha Koshta has been dealt with in this chapter. She also uses the Nirnaya Tantra Yukti in the explanation of this context and also deals with the Ama Vikalpa in the Koshta. Next, the last chapter deals with Agni. So, Agni, Koshta, their synergistic existence and the types of Agni, the Vyadyavastha of the Agni is also explained here. She ends the chapter with a flow chart which explains the nuisances of the Manda Agni with a treatment perspective. Dr. Pavana ends the book by saying why the Koshta has more emphasis than the dosha or the Agni. Hence, for all those in the quest of knowledge, for the thirst of understanding, I would strongly recommend you to pick up this book, Koshta, a clinical perspective, penned by Dr. Pavana Jairam. I can assure a level of clarity and understanding of the already told Ayurvedic principles which has been elaborately, precisely and expertly represented by Dr. Pavana. Thank you so much.